Chapter 5: The Circumstances. If the scale of the general elections 2014 was remarkable, the nation's state of affairs at the time of the elections was equally noteworthy. Let's take a look at the investment cycle. 12 to 18 months prior to the elections, investments had slowed. The investment cycle had turned sluggish, and there was an air of impermanence over most policies. The policies were introduced with retrospective effect. The tax gross domestic product ratio was remarkably low, and a very lackadaisical approach towards tax evaders was fairly evident and immensely frustrating. In the past 10 years, India also swung from one end of the growth environment debate to another, but none achieved the middle ground between development and the environment. India's biggest banks are still state-owned, and they're all in need of capital. It is a requirement born out of statutory requirements of capital and the rising pile of bad debt on the books of banks. Growth calls for an increase in the demand for credit, and this means banks are in dire need of recapitalization. Governments have always been averse to tinkering with the country's labor laws out of fear of antagonizing a significant chunk of voters. Over the past decade in particular, these moribund laws have impeded India's efforts to expand its manufacturing sector, hurting the country's global competitiveness, and still worse, not served the very people they were meant to protect by forcing companies to hire temporary workers who are often not on their rolls. Companies have also been hit by opaque rules related to the allotment of national resources, telecom spectrum, iron ore, and coal. These rules have favored one company over others, and sometimes even over national interests. India has also done too little to address the issue of energy security and is yet to get a handle on contentious fuel subsidies, and has often blown hot and cold on non-conventional sources of energy. It is all right for an economy that's the world's third largest in purchasing parity terms to not have enough energy, but it isn't all right for it to not have a cogent energy policy. For almost 2 decades, India has been struggling to move from a government-dominated economy to one where private companies take over several things that were once the exclusive domain of the state. In summary, the leadership of India in the past decade has failed to do what it has been elected to do: lead.